Welcome back to English Through Wisdom. I hope you learned something valuable from our last lesson. It is wonderful to have you here again today.
The wallet was heavier than anything Elias had ever held in his hands. Thick, worn brown leather, packed so full it barely closed. He knelt on the empty road, dust settling slowly around his knees, and opened it with careful fingers. Inside was more money than his family earned in an entire year. For one long, silent moment, 17 years of hunger whispered a single question into his mind. What if no one ever found out? Years later, he finally understood the wisdom hidden inside that one moment on the road. Welcome to English Through Wisdom. Here we learn English through powerful stories and timeless lessons from cultures around the world. Today we discover a story about poverty, temptation, and the single choice that decides who a person truly becomes. The village of Marno sat between two dry hills, the kind of place where everyone knew whose roof leaked and whose harvest had failed. Elias walked home the same way every evening, past the shuttered bakery, past the well where the older men argued about football, his shoes worn thin enough that he could feel every stone through the sole. He was 17 years old and carried two jobs the way other boys his age carried nothing heavier than school books. Mornings he swept the floor of a mechanic's shop before class. Evenings he unloaded crates at the market until his arms burned. His mother, Rosalind, had raised him and his younger sister Nadia alone since their father died, and Elias had quietly decided, without ever saying it aloud, that he would be the reason his family survived. Their house had 2 rooms. Rain came through the corner near the kitchen, and Rosalind kept a bucket there year-round, a small gray reminder of everything they didn't have. At night, Elias studied by candlelight, his textbook propped against a cracked wall, memorizing equations his teacher said could one day take him to university in the city. Education was the only door Elias could see out of that house, and he intended to walk through it, even if he had to crawl the whole way. That evening, the road home was empty except for the wind moving dry leaves across the dirt. Something caught the last orange light of sunset, half buried near a fallen fence post. Elias almost walked past it. Then he stopped. It was the wallet. Thick leather stitched by hand, the kind rich men carried in the city, not the kind anyone dropped in Marno. He picked it up and felt its weight settle in his palm like a small, quiet earthquake. Inside were folded bills, more than he had ever seen in one place, along with a passport, a business card reading Henrik Voss, Import and Trade, and a photograph of an old man standing beside a younger woman who might have been his daughter. Elias sat down right there on the roadside, the wallet open in his lap, and for a long time he simply stared at the money as though it might disappear if he blinked. That night, he told no one. He lay on his mat, listening to Nadia's soft breathing across the room, and let himself imagine it. School fees paid in full. New shoes for his sister. His mother finally able to stop taking in other people's laundry until her hands cracked and bled in winter. One wallet, and every single problem his family carried might simply vanish. His friend Tobias found out 2 days later, when Elias made the mistake of mentioning it quietly at the market. "You're not thinking of giving it back," Tobias said, half laughing, half serious. "Elias, look at your shoes. Look at your house. Whoever lost that wallet, he has 10 more just like it. He won't even remember losing this one by next month. And if he does remember, then he learns a lesson about being careless with his money," Tobias said, shrugging. "This is not stealing. This is the road giving you something back for once." Elias said nothing, but that night he barely slept. He turned the wallet over in his mind the way he turned a stone over in his hand, looking for the side that felt right. He thought of his mother's voice, steady and quiet, even after losing everything. She had told him once when he was younger and had found a few coins in the street, "A poor person can lose his house, his health, even his name. But the moment he loses his honesty, he has truly lost everything. He hadn't understood it then. He was beginning to understand it now, at 2 in the morning, staring at a ceiling he couldn't see. He imagined 2 versions of his future. In one, the money solved everything today, and some quiet, nameless part of him stayed broken forever, aware of exactly what he had done to fix it. In the other, nothing changed by morning. The roof still leaked. The shoes still had holes, but he could look at his own reflection without flinching. By sunrise, he had made his choice, though it did not feel like relief. It felt like standing at the edge of something and stepping off anyway. Finding Henrik Voss took nearly a week. Elias asked at the market, then at the bus station, then finally convinced a shop owner to let him use a telephone to call the number on the business card. A tired voice answered, and when Elias explained why he was calling, the line went silent for so long he thought the call had dropped. "Say that again," the voice said finally. "Say that again slowly." They met at the bus station in the nearest town, Henrik Voss stepping down from a car far too clean for the dusty street. A man in his 60s with tired eyes that looked like they had recently done a great deal of crying. Elias held out the wallet with both hands. Henrik opened it right there, counted the bills twice with shaking fingers, checked the passport, the business card, the photograph of his daughter. He looked up at Elias for a long moment. "Nothing is missing," he said, as though he didn't quite believe his own words. "I lost this 3 weeks ago on a business trip. I had already told my daughter the money for her medical treatment was gone. I had already told her we would find another way." His voice cracked slightly. "Why did you return it? You could have simply kept it. No one would have known." Elias thought of his mother's voice again. "I would have known," he said simply. Henrik didn't say much more that day. He shook Elias's hand, thanked him quietly, and left. Elias walked home wondering if he had made a foolish decision after all, if honesty was simply its own quiet, unpaid reward and nothing more. 3 weeks later, a car stopped outside their small house. Henrik Voss stepped out, this time with a folder of papers instead of a wallet. He had spent those 3 weeks quietly asking questions in Marno about Elias's grades, his mother's work, the roof that leaked, the sister who needed school shoes. "I did not come to give you money," Henrik said, sitting carefully at their small kitchen table, while Rosalind poured tea with hands that would not stay still. "Money. I could have given you the day you returned my wallet and you would have forgotten my name within a year. I want to offer you something that lasts longer." He explained it slowly. Full sponsorship for Elias's education, university included, along with mentorship at his company during holidays, a door into a world Elias had only read about in borrowed textbooks. Elias hesitated, his pride catching in his throat. "I didn't return your wallet to be rewarded," he said. "I don't want to feel like I sold my honesty for a scholarship." Henrik almost smiled, the first real smile Elias had seen from him. "You didn't sell anything," he said. "That's exactly why I'm offering it. Honesty like yours is rare enough that when I find it, I choose to invest in it. Not because you asked, because you never did." Years later, Elias graduated at the top of his class, then built a career helping small businesses in towns much like Marno get access to the funding they needed to survive. People who worked with him would later say the same thing about him before they ever mentioned his success. They would say, "He is an honest man." Somehow, that always came first. One afternoon, a young intern at his company confessed quietly that she had found a lost envelope of cash belonging to a client and was unsure what to do with it. Elias set down his pen and looked at her the way Henrik Voss had once looked at him. "Money can disappear in a single day," he told her. "But character is the one thing that keeps creating opportunities long after the money is gone." He paused, remembering a dusty road, a fallen fence post, and a wallet heavier than anything he had ever carried. The richest reward I ever received wasn't a scholarship. It was becoming the kind of person someone could trust with the future. There is an old Japanese saying that fits this story closely. Word for word, it translates to something like, kindness is not for the sake of others. At first glance, that sounds almost selfish, as though kindness should only be given for personal benefit. But the real meaning runs deeper, and centuries of use have shaped it into something closer to this. When you show kindness or honesty towards someone else, that goodness does not simply disappear into the world. It eventually returns to you, often in a form you never expected. This saying has survived in everyday Japanese conversation for a very long time, used to encourage people to act with integrity even when no one is watching, and even when the reward is not immediate or obvious. Notice how closely this mirrors Elias's story. He did not return the wallet because he expected Henrik Voss to sponsor his education. He returned it because his mother had taught him that honesty is not a transaction. It is simply who a person chooses to be. The reward came later, unplanned, unearned in the way he expected, and far greater than the money itself could ever have been. This is why old wisdom like this survives for centuries. It is not really about a wallet or money or scholarships. It is about a simple, quiet truth that shows up in every culture, in different words, again and again. What you give honestly to the world has a way of finding its way back to you, sometimes years later, sometimes in a shape you never imagined. Sit with this for a moment. Elias stood on that road with a decision that could have solved every visible problem in his life instantly. No one would have judged him. No one would have even known. Have you ever faced a moment like that, small or large, where the easy choice and the honest choice pulled you in two completely different directions? Have you ever judged someone too quickly for choosing differently than you would have, without truly understanding the weight they were carrying? What would you have done, standing on that road, staring at money that could change everything, with a mother at home who had already sacrificed so much? There is no simple answer here, and maybe that is the point. Integrity rarely feels rewarding in the moment it is chosen. It often feels like giving something up. Elias walked away from that roadside meeting with Henrik Voss, believing he had lost his one real chance. It took weeks before he understood otherwise. Perhaps the real question this story leaves us with is this one. Are we building our lives around what feels easiest today, or around who we want to become over the next 10 years? Tell me honestly in the comments. What would you have done with that wallet? 12 useful B2 level words from the story, with meanings and simple examples. Scarcity, a situation where something needed is in short supply. Example, the scarcity of clean water affected the whole village. Widowed, having lost a husband or wife through death. Example, his widowed mother raised him alone. Trapped, unable to escape a difficult situation. Example, she felt trapped in a job she didn't enjoy. Temptation, a strong desire to do something, especially something wrong. Example, he resisted the temptation to lie. Integrity, the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. Example, her integrity earned everyone's respect. Sleepless, unable to sleep. Example, he spent a sleepless night worrying about the exam. Sponsorship, financial support given to help someone achieve a goal. Example, the company offered him a full sponsorship for university. Mentorship, guidance and support given by an experienced person. Example, her mentorship helped him grow quickly in his career. Hesitate, to pause because you feel unsure. Example, she hesitated before answering the difficult question. Distrustful, not trusting people easily. Example, after being cheated twice, he became distrustful of strangers. Investigate, to examine something carefully to find out the truth. Example, the manager decided to investigate the missing funds. Full circle, a situation returning to where it started. often with new meaning. Example. Years later, teaching his own students felt like coming full circle. Repeat this short paragraph aloud after listening, focusing on rhythm and natural spoken English. Money can disappear in a single day, but character is the one thing that keeps creating opportunities long after the money is gone. The richest reward I ever received wasn't a scholarship. It was becoming the kind of person someone could trust with a future. Elias found a fortune on an empty road and chose to give it back, not because he expected a reward, but because his mother had taught him that honesty is never for sale. Years later, that single choice opened doors that money alone could never have reached. Today you learned new English vocabulary, practiced your listening, and carried home a piece of old wisdom about honesty and character. Keep learning English, keep discovering stories, and keep collecting wisdom from around the world.
If you enjoyed learning English through this ancient saying, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need this wisdom today. Until next time, keep learning English and keep collecting wisdom from around the world.